Welcome to a presentation and analysis of the community of Lutz, Florida by Jessica Tutor, RN. The history of Lutz begins with its original natives, which are the Native Americans. Spaniards arrived in the 16th century, followed by the Catholic mission from Luxembourg, which was the first official settlement that arrived in the 1800s. They were here due to the flourishing wildlife and generous supply of water. The earliest industries in Lutz were turpentine production and sawmills, and later Lutz began to flourish from the blossoming citrus industry that we can still see today. Plant nurseries can be found all along the rural area of Lutz, as well as orange groves and even lemons. Charles Lutz built the railroad to process his exports, which crossed over the Tampa Railroad and became the Lutz Junction. This brought a great deal of business and economic gain to the Lutz area, which is why the town, formerly known as North Tampa, gained the name Lutz. The Lutz Junction was a small log cabin just like this one. A replica still stands there today on North Dale Mabry Highway. Structures in Lutz. Areas closer to Tampa can be quite urban, with many parks and recreational activities, such as bike trails, stores, hospitals, restaurants, large neighborhoods, and up-and-coming housing developments. We have small private universities, shopping centers, but something quite unique is depending on where you live, you can be much more secluded in farmland-type area, or you can be right down the road from the city. All these up-and-coming businesses provide a variety of job opportunities in the area. Lake Park off Dale Mabry offers canoeing, kayaking, horseback riding, playgrounds, dog parks, and even jogging trails. Apollo Beach Park and Recreational is also a Lutz gym. They have a recreational center open to the public, a skate park, a basketball court, a dog park, and another playground. We also have a museum, which is the Henry B. Plant Museum, which was founded in 1933 and full of rich history. One of the structures that Lutz seems to be lacking on is our public transportation. Florida in general seems to have issues with public transportation where other cities with high populations can accommodate. We have our public bus system and the MFE bus station, as well as city cabs and Lyft and Uber, but those only really work if one has access to a cell phone and the financial needs to acquire a ride. Lutz would benefit from more accessible and affordable transportation for its residents. This is an example of our lush citrus industry and a common neighborhood. Lutz has a decent-sized population of 20,759 people. Not as quite as large as Tampa or St. Pete, but with a respectable amount of college graduates, the median household income is almost $80,000, whereas the median household income for the United States is just about $55,000, meaning that the majority of Lutz citizens are relatively comfortably financially stable. The demographic is predominantly white, followed by Hispanic, and then Black. I feel the community would benefit from being more culturally diverse, considering only 7.8% of Lutz residents are foreign-born. I feel like with more diversity comes more knowledge, it brings interest, possibilities, and economic gain. Next, we'll move on to the leading causes of death in the Lutz area. We have heart disease, cancer, and accidents. Nationwide, heart disease and cancer are also the top for leading causes of death. In a peer-reviewed article by the CDC, they speak about a program funding to be implemented nationwide based on 4 domains. 1, epidemiology and surveillance. 2, environmental approaches. 3, healthcare system interventions. And 4, community programs linked to clinical services. If the residents and healthcare providers take note of this nationwide plan, the residents in Lutz, as well as the whole United States, could ideally decrease the risk of death from heart disease and cancers. Individuals can take strides by consuming a healthy diet, getting physical activity, and taking their medications, especially those for diabetes or hypertension, and seeing your doctor regularly. There are many healthcare resources in Lutz. Hospitals and standalone ERs, 2 are located off Dale Mabry Highway. Med Expresses and walk-in clinics usually open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with no appointment needed, as well as offering low-cost health care for non-emergent health issues. There's also many assisted livings, long-term cares, and home healths. Angel Senior Living is one of the assisted living facilities that includes a memory care unit. Atria Lutz is another assisted living facility that provides recreational activities, cooking, cleaning, transport, and 24-hour care for its residents. Griswold Home Care provides home health, including companionship, live-in care, medical care, personal care, and hospice care. The same is offered by Comfort Keepers Home Care, another home health service. Lutz Counseling is a service that provides $75 hour-long sessions and accepts most major insurances. There are a variety of doctor's office and specialty medical services all throughout Lutz, and most do accept major insurance providers. Community objectives. Healthy People 2020 is an excellent resource on health pathologies as well as preventative care and treatment. I would like to circle back around and talk about heart disease and cancer once again, as well as respiratory disease. I rank heart disease as number 1 because it is the number 1 cause of death in Lutz as well as the United States. Cancer as number 2 because it is Lutz's second highest killer. And finally, I will rank respiratory diseases as number 3. Nationwide, respiratory disease is number 4 on the list of top killers. Risk factors for heart disease are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, being overweight or obese. As I mentioned before, many of these can be managed with healthy diet, physical activity, and medication adherence, as well as quitting smoking and avoiding all tobacco products. Leading into our second community objective, using modifiable risk factors to prevent incidence of cancer. Many cancers are preventable by avoiding the use of tobacco products, consuming healthy diets, and getting plenty of exercise and avoiding excess sun or UV light exposure. Many types of cancers can also be treated more easily if they are caught early. This is done by getting regular screenings, such as mammograms for breast cancer, pap smears for cervical cancer, and testing such as colonoscopies for colorectal cancer. This can be done with following up with your primary care and being referred to specialists as needed. The third objective I address is the incidence of respiratory disease, such as asthma or COPD. In this case, we're more so trying to decrease exacerbation or complications from said diseases. Currently, 25 million people in the U.S. have asthma, and 14.8 million have COPD. Asthma, an individual can avoid their triggers, wash their hands regularly, and avoid respiratory infections, keep a healthy weight. COPD is similar avoiding. You just want to avoid tobacco products as well as secondhand smoke, as well as keeping a healthy weight. All of these tips are honestly beneficial for any person to incorporate into their lives for a more healthy lifestyle. Environmental resources. Water supply and quality. Tampa Bay Water is the region's water supplier, and they state that routinely and frequently monitor water and check for contaminants. The EPA requires they check for 80 forms of contaminants. This check is performed on all 11 of their public water systems. As far as sewage and reclaimed water is not suitable for human consumption, but it can be used on most grass and fruit or vegetables that do not need to be peeled before eating. Lutz provides a variety of locations to dispose of hazardous waste or recycling that are open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and there's a separate drop-off for paint and electronic disposal. Lutz air quality looks good compared to other more populated areas. On a scale from good to hazardous, and the scale reads good, moderate, USG, unhealthy, very unhealthy, and then hazardous, we rank good. Tampa's air quality index is considered good, as well as its ozones and particles. Last is vector control. Hillsborough County treats over 40 types of mosquitoes, which helps prevent from mosquito-borne illness, as well as having 30 mosquito traps placed throughout the area to help track the mosquito population. Overall, I think Lutz provides plentiful and easily accessible environmental resources, but we do have a large wild deer population here, and I feel we could benefit from more deer crossing signs to make the residents and motor drivers more aware. The community could benefit to homes side pickups for hazardous waste and devices for those who don't have the resources to drop it off. On to government and public policy. Our current officials are Pat Frank, the clerk of court; Chad Carlister is the sheriff; Bob Hernandez is the Florida appraiser; and Bob Buckhorn is our mayor; and lastly, Mark Suarez is our city council member. The mayor and city council members serve 4-year terms, with them being staggered every 2 years for voting. The local government is broken into 3 branches, just like state and federal government. The executive branch that consists of the mayor, city manager, county commissioner, and county executive. Then the legislative branch that consists of senator, representatives, delegates, assemblymen. Last is the judicial branch, which has the courts and Supreme Courts. Some areas for concern in local area is that we have too many children being arrested for first-time misdemeanors. The alternative would be to send them to civil citation and provide them a disciplinary program where they have to participate in community service, which would provide therapy, rehab, or anger management. This would be more productive for these kids other than just locking them away for their first mistake. It will give them more opportunity and help the community to grow as a whole. Community needs. Back again to decrease heart disease, decrease cancer, decrease respiratory disease. We need to improve public transportation and make it easier to assess our public officials besides just emailing them. And we need to offer opportunity for diversity. They're in this order because these 3 causes of death are most concerning. Transportation is next important, accessing our local government, and then lastly, becoming more diverse. That is my assessment of Lutz. They're a great community, and we have so much growing left to do.